Welcome back after lunch. I will get started right away. And thank you for an introduction. It's a pleasure to be here again. I was here last year, and I think the first couple of slides here will relate to a few changes that has been since last year. But otherwise, I will emphasize on the work that we're doing on the road now and the amount of vehicles and validation data that we have to show that the technology that I'm going to talk about is a viable solution. So there's a little bit of the company intro here, optimal SCR, some examples of performance under challenging conditions, and then the production and supply of this kind of technology here. And then basically going from retrofit to be ready as an OEM product. Amminex is a Danish clean tech company. It was started about 10 years ago. What has happened since last year is that one of the shareholders, Faurecia, has increased its share in Amminex to 91.5%. So that means that now Amminex belongs to the Faurecia family, the global emissions control technology company, which also recently has, as you can see here, let's say, revised its strategy towards clean mobility. So that means ASDS is now part of Faurecia Clean Mobility's strategy for global clean emissions, which is really good for us. And I'll move on with the technical part of the topic here. What I'm going to talk about is the alternative to AdBlue. That means the ability to dose ammonia directly into the SCR catalyst. And the first slide is an example on how that makes a difference. Here is an example of a bus from London where we were logging the Euro 5 emissions performance on the vehicle on the road in real traffic. And then during during last year in January, we upgraded so that the system from Amminex would do the dosing control for the catalyst, and on that same vehicle we could get a significant increase in performance on the existing catalyst just by dosing ammonia and taking over the emissions control. So ammonia can make a big difference, and as we will see later during the presentation, it can have a good impact on other things. If you have good low temperature performance, you can eliminate the need for heating strategies, which is good for CO2. If you can reduce the requirement for EGR in urban driving, it's good for DPF operation because you have a better soot balance. And other positive side effects is that with ammonia you have no risk of deposits and you have no freezing. So there are some, let's say, indirect items related to AdBlue that disappears when you have ammonia. But ammonia is normally not safe, and this is why we have the solid technology from Amminex here, where we have made ammonia safe. SCR catalysts, I mean, it's the way to go to make the diesel engine clean. I mean, AdBlue is widely available and it's used all over in the industry. But it's also known that there are some challenges linked to performance under low load conditions. And again, this is where the ammonia can have its benefits. So basically, from the path from urea droplets into the SCR catalyst, there is this spray and evaporation and mixing, which can make it difficult to dose at low temperature. And with ammonia gas, you have the ability to just dose ammonia through a steel pipe and then get good mixing with low back pressure. And then that basically enables you to get full utilization of the SCR catalyst and run the SCR reaction directly. What we have developed is safe storage of ammonia inside a solid. And this white solid, it's a salt, strontium chloride. Ammonia is absorbed into it, and then it's compacted into this metal cartridge. You can see some of these samples and products at the booth next door. And that cartridge is basically then the capacity for SCR reductant. It basically means that when you integrate this in a system, you can release ammonia on demand. And here you have an example of a system which basically uses these cartridges as ammonia supply. We call them Adamine cartridges, and it's basically safe storage of ammonia. These are approximately 10.5 liter in size, and they give you something like 20 liter AdBlue equivalent. The system located down here is modular. We have 2 cartridges. One is first used and then the second one, scalable and modular. We have a small dosing unit. I didn't bring it here. It's located on the table next door, a small compact unit that doses ammonia. We have a controller with software, And then what is also located on the system is a small startup unit that makes ammonia available during the cold start after a short period of time. So basically this system acts like an ammonia bottle, but it's just made ammonia safe so that you can transport it globally without any problems, and you can use it safely on vehicles. That basically enables you to get pure ammonia to the exhaust system without, let's say, the normal problems of converting urea into ammonia. So the way we move this product onto the market is first to go through retrofit. That means get it early introduced by emissions upgrade of existing vehicles in low emission zones in different cities. And what I will use the next about 7-8 minutes is about to show where we are with this technology in retrofit and the kind of experience that we have in the field. Some areas of where we have been on the road. We did have a trial with US buses in Buffalo under also some pretty harsh conditions. We have the main fleet that we have in operation is from a public tender from the Danish government. It's about 300 buses in Copenhagen. We have now also started operation of a fleet in London. We have also a small fleet in northern Sweden where we actually can get some, let's say, automatically get some good cold climate data where we can follow with our online tools that we get good NOx reduction even if it's really cold. So that was just some geographical examples. If we go in more detail, then what is it that we have done on these buses? Well, basically it's to take existing Euro 4 and 5 to upgrade them to become Euro 6 equivalent by installing an emissions upgrade. These Euro 4 and 5s are typically born as AdBlue SCR vehicles. We basically put our system on for ammonia dosing and control, an upgraded exhaust system with DOC DPF SCR from a partner, in this case Amminex, with service manuals and online tools. And then basically it's a package for achieving Euro 6 equivalent performance. We use vanadium SCR in these systems because it's a complete passive system. So if you use copper zeolite, there would be a risk of getting sulfur poisoning on the catalyst. And by vanadium, you have a stable system towards sulfur. And also, again, it's completely passive DPF system here. So in that way, it works well with a vanadium catalyst as well regarding temperature peaks. The way we integrate it as emissions upgrade is that we do it. We basically read. Our controller is reading some basic information on the CAN bus from the engine, which enables us to calculate exhaust mass flow. Then we have NOx sensors before and after the SCR catalyst, as well as a temperature sensor, and that basically allows us to take over the control of emissions on the vehicle and dose ammonia according to the engine load and the catalyst temperature, and try to dose as aggressively as possible. And at the same time monitoring that the passive regeneration is working well on the vehicle in city driving. So that's a configuration of the system. This is what it looks like. A sample like this is located next doors. They can also be side by side, different configurations. On vehicles, it can look like this, side by side here in the engine compartment of one type of vehicle, on the side of another type of vehicle. In London, the red double-deckers are looking a little different. Here is an example where it's fitted on a London double-decker. So that's what the hardware looks like on vehicles. Our system is also, let's say, connected to the internet. That means each vehicle is sending data through the GSM network to a central server, which allows us to set up an online portal with a lot of detailed data from all the vehicles. But it also gives us the opportunity to have, let's say, special features, as you will see later, regarding smartphone apps. So, and where we are now, after having upgraded in Copenhagen, it's basically roughly 300 vehicles. It started in September last year, so now we have reached approximately 27 million kilometers. We have removed more than 300 tons of NOx. In city driving, the average SCR temperature is approximately 50% of the time at 200 or 220 degrees or lower. So that means we are in the window where ammonia is really valuable. We have supplied so far more than 28,000 of these cartridges for refilling of, let's say, instead of refilling. And just to give a comparison here, it is almost 600 tons of AdBlue that we have supplied so far, equivalent as ammonia. What we also have here, and you can download this whenever you want. If you go into Apple iStore, iTunes, or Google Play, and if you search for NOx Tracker Live, you can download an app. And that app is basically transmitting NOx tailpipe sensor data live from each vehicle. So you'll be able to see what is the average tailpipe PPM level of all the buses, the mileage that we have driven, and how many buses are driving. You can get this as live data in a summarized form. You can also choose London, and then you can see what the vehicles are doing over there. And I think that's the part about transparency, that it's good to be able to show also the authorities who provide funding for the retrofit programs. They can sit in the city council meeting and see that they get value for their money. The features of this online tool is even more detailed. When we go into our own portal, we can basically track vehicles where they are. We can click on a vehicle and we can get a snapshot of the live performance as it happens. We can have detailed data as well. This is an example of a Copenhagen bus in central Copenhagen. Here you can see each dot represents 5 minutes, and you can see most of these 24 hours, you have the operation pattern between 150 and 200 degrees Celsius. And of course, that's very challenging to dose a liquid reductant. And here we can dose ammonia. We cannot get 99% conversion at 150 or 175, but still we have very, very decent performance even if the temperature is very low. Normally, the area where you would normally be dosing liquid is basically from 200 and up. And again, when you go into winter conditions, then what we see is typically now it becomes even colder. So sometimes 80% of the buses are driving around with a temperature limit here or below. So in city driving, ammonia can make a big difference in performance. But it's not just cold driving, it's also sometimes warmer temperatures. And I just wanted to show an example here that ammonia is not just good at low temperature. You can have a broad window of very good performance. This is another bus that is driving in a different area of Copenhagen. But it's not just the daily work that is going well. This is our web tool that shows long-term data. Here we have from September 16 until February 17. You can here see engine out NOx is approximately 550 to 600 ppm. Tailpipe NOx sensor here. Ammonia dosing here. And the NOx conversion here, which is in the upper 90s in stable operation in city driving. Another example here is just to see, this is how it looks when instead of refilling, what you do is when you get a light and a warning, you disconnect the quick connector from the cartridge. In the current version, you have to untighten a clamp. You take out the cartridge, which is declared empty by the OBD, and then another cartridge, which is full of ammonia, is being fitted on the system. And when that is fixed, then the service guy, he connects again the connector, and that's it. And that exercise that you saw there, it's nice and clean, and it corresponds to refilling 20-liter AdBlue in that compact cartridge. The error modes associated with this are actually quite few. You cannot get anything wrong into the tank, and it's a closed system, so for robustness and warranty, it can be a real value. A few other examples from London as well as Korea. From London, what we are also doing is that we are sometimes seeing the impact on the vehicle when we go from AdBlue to ASDS. Here is an example where we have used our NOx tracker tool to monitor the vehicle before we upgrade it. And in this case, you can see that the efficiency starts somewhere around 200, but it doesn't rise so aggressively because of, let's say, conservative dosing. When we take that vehicle and put our system on, then you can see that we can get a significant shift up in conversion. And if you take, and it's basically, it's the same bus, it's the same catalyst, and at that position in London, the bus was doing 10% DNOx, and with ammonia afterwards, at that position, it was doing 80%. So again, Euro 5 catalyst, but a dramatic improvement where people are living and breathing the air. And that example, that was upgrading the performance by ammonia to the existing Euro 5 catalyst. The next example is upgrading also the catalytic system to DOC, DPF, and upgraded SCR. And on this double-decker bus, we are, sorry, wrong button here. Again, Euro 5 engine, double-decker retrofitted, and then tested on the London bus cycle. We achieved 0.2 gram NOx per kilometer, or converted in 0.17 gram per kilowatt hour, which is basically 3 times lower than the official Euro 6 target. NO2 is really, really low. Overall, in this London bus cycle, it's more than 99% DNOx with ammonia fed to vanadium catalyst. The good thing about the online tool is that you can see that this is replicated also on the road. It's not just on the chassis dyno test. It's also seen in real driving. In Korea, we have been together with Faurecia and local Korean companies involved in some vehicle trials. There has been a city bus trial that we also could report some data from last year, where basically we have monthly averages of SCR and efficiency here, where on a monthly basis the temperatures for these buses were basically always below 200. Another example, which is from what's going on right now, it's a different trial. It's a truck, and here you can see the NOx tracker with Korean letters on the map. So this is basically running around now in the Seoul area, and again you can see here that we can get DNOx performance at 200 degrees or lower. Obviously, the performance depends on specifically which catalyst has been installed. We have also done official PEMS testing. During this morning, there has been a lot of discussion about the upcoming change in Euro 6, that you need to be able to fulfill emissions also on the road with PEMS testing. We have had some discussions about engine power threshold, and that is going to be changed so that you have to prove PEMS testing in real driving. One of the Copenhagen buses, we have taken that, again, it's a Euro 5 bus, Euro 5 engine, but it was upgraded with the Amminex system and new exhaust. And on this one, we had emissions analytics from UK carry out the PEMS testing, and looking at the data here for nitrogen oxides, this is Euro 6 level, and we tested 3 times lower. So it basically means we had a conformity factor of 0.3, and according to Euro 6, you're allowed to have 1.5. This was done at an ambient temperature of 5 degrees Celsius. It was urban trip definition. That means 70% urban driving, 30% rural, and not highway. So it's even stressing the engine more towards low load. What we have here is an example of average engine power being 15%. So we're actually falling in the window, which is between 20, which is the current one, and that is going to change to 10. So that means if you have a bus fleet that runs at 15% engine load, then all of a sudden you're now capturing it with the common legislation instead of not capturing it before. So from our perspective, it makes a lot of sense. And again, just to emphasize here, we are not using any data filtering in these results. We are not choosing windows and discarding them if they have a certain engine power. This is basically counting the tailpipe emissions throughout the trip. For this going ahead towards new vehicles, then you could say, what is the outlook? What is the potential value of the ammonia? Well, we have a couple of examples here. We have been involved in EU Horizon project together with an OE, an engine manufacturer, where we have been testing ASDS in combination with a light commercial vehicle. When we took ASDS on the existing Euro 6 exhaust system for that engine, we were able to get down emissions by factor 2, roughly, below Euro 6. And that can enable a little bit of recalibration of the engine to get a fuel benefit. Then it doesn't take into account the savings from thermal management in low load cycles, but basically on cycle here. Another very good example is work which is now completed by Cummins in North America, a funded project by EPA, where they took, it was a new aluminum-based diesel engine, and that was configured with an advanced aftertreatment solution of a cold start catalyst with so-called passive NOx absorber, SCR-coated filter, extra SCR bricks under the floor. And in this particular case, they used our system in a creative way. There was ammonia dosing here, but also by splitting the ammonia flow, you could send ammonia to the underfloor position. So when you're regenerating the particulate filter, you can dose ammonia to this position, and you can still, let's say, capture emissions in let's say, basically in all driving conditions. And I think it's pretty convincing data here that they were able to get 7 milligrams per kilometer on the FTP75. This is an example. It's a slide that comes from the Amminex. It's a common slide. It's some work that is ongoing between Pacific Northwest Lab and Johnson Matthey, and the focus is low temperature catalysts. The reason for this slide is basically to emphasize the importance of low temperature performance and engine efficiency. On this slide, you have a 2016 model year engine, and then you send it through a certain low load vocational cycle, and that gives you a certain temperature distribution. And then you can see this is the threshold for 200 degrees, which is critical for AdBlue dosing. And if you take the 2017 model year engine, that one has increased in efficiency, and that means all of a sudden now almost 50% of that drive cycle is exposed to temperatures where ammonia can make a lot of difference. So if you have an aftertreatment system that works below 200, you can avoid or minimize the compromise between the efficient engine and taking care of the NOx problem. So overall, if you look at this, the kind of the opportunities associated with the ammonia system is that because of the simplicity of the exhaust integration and let's say the overall solution, there are opportunities to make some cost downs on the total solution from engine to tailpipe, and you can use some of these benefits to downscale the complexity of the exhaust system. For reasons of not having deposits and other side effects, then the more robust you have the system, let's say the lower the risk of warranty claims. Calibration of ammonia dosing is fundamentally more simple because you don't have to worry about the deposit risk. So in some way that makes development cost maybe a little bit lower. And especially for vehicles which are frequently driving in cities, then if you don't have to do the thermal management, then you can have fuel saving. And we know from the ones that we are supplying to right now, the fleet operators of buses, that they have savings on maintenance and repairs when they switch to the gaseous system, which overall leads to a reduction in the annual cost. Regarding production and supply, we have our plant in Denmark. This is where we manufacture cartridges and we can ship them out on pallets. We have also got a cartridge refill station where we supply the customer base in Scandinavia and London so far. And then we are assembling these low volume retrofit systems that we are sending out to these retrofit programs. But let's say more importantly, it's also about to expand in different areas of the world. And what we're working on right now, it's about to be completed. It's a cartridge refill station that is kind of mobile. So this one will be put in operation in UK later this year to support London activities. But a unit like this, where the footprint is actually not so big, that one can be placed next to an ammonia tank, and then you can serve at least 1,000 commercial vehicles by rapid expansion of refill. And then basically it's a nice controlled loop here, where the depleted cartridges are sent back for recharge, and the refilled ones go out to the customer again. But looking at the more global picture, now this is where the plant is in Denmark, and we are serving as much as we can there. Our mother company, Faurecia, they have already set up a pilot refill station in Shanghai as well for ongoing activities there. Then we already have a cooperation agreement with US industrial gas company Airgas, whereby we could use their ammonia stations in US as a base location for doing cartridge refilling. Last but not least, Korea. What about Korea? Again, mother company Faurecia is currently planning, have an aggressive plan for setting up a distribution network and refill to be able to have cartridges located in the Korean market. Currently planning for a capacity of about 400,000 cartridges per year, which is equivalent to 8,000 tons of AdBlue. But again, ammonia is widely available, so this can be scaled up. The very last part before I stop, it is our next step towards passenger cars and light-duty diesels to try to capture the same benefits by downsizing what we have now for commercial vehicles. And in this segment, it looks a little bit different. It has to be more consumer-friendly. So we are picturing here a product which is much more like something that feels more nice and easy to handle, a smaller compact system. But again, a system configured here. These are roughly 1.5 liter in size. And again, these two would be the tank. Then down here you would have all the intelligent stuff with a small controller and the dosing valves, and then the small startup unit, and then the plastic module to keep it in. And then overall, this could be integrated on the vehicle. And of course, depending on where you would do it, under the vehicle or the side, or maybe in the side of the trunk, then this is how it could be done. And again here, it's about distribution, and we are talking to several oil companies about the ability to have synergies with their tank station network to be able to supply cartridges to, let's say, any customer. So that leaves me now to a few concluding remarks. So we have now got a lot of on-road mileage and a lot of confidence in the product. We know that we can obtain really, I mean, you cannot do better than what you can do with direct ammonia gas. That's clear. And we have shown some really good data, ultra-low NO2. The cartridge is nice and compact. Again, the ability to get both NOx and CO2 as low as possible at the same time is important. We talked about the potential benefits for system complexity of the exhaust. If you can make the exhaust system less complex, you can also reduce the back pressure, which is good for CO2. Warranty cost and other things, I have already mentioned that, so I think I would just leave this one and say thank you for the attention by having a statement from one of the first customers. So thank you very much for your attention.